My friends, it's Thursday. Let's get right into it. Not a moment to lose. Welcome back to Real Truth. Howard Riell. Item, Dr. Paul R. McHugh, former psychiatrist in chief, now distinguished service professor of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins Hospital, says, quote, transgenderism is a mental disorder that merits treatment. Sex change is biologically impossible, and that people doing sexual reassignment surgery are collaborating with and promoting a mental disorder, unquote. He explains why Johns Hopkins Hospital has stopped doing sex reassignment surgery and says the actions of, quote, misguided doctors who administer puberty-delaying hormones to render later sex change surgeries onerous come close to child abuse, unquote. Dr. Paul McHugh, distinguished in the medical field, highly respected among his peers, has written 6 books and at least 125 peer-reviewed medical articles. He's also deeply concerned about the trends in so-called gender identity. The June 9, 2014 issue of Time magazine featured transgenderism on its cover and predicted, quote, nearly a year after the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage, another social movement is poised to challenge deeply held cultural beliefs. McHugh responded not from the point of view of deeply held cultural beliefs, but from established medical science. His article in the Wall Street Journal was titled, Transgender Surgery Isn't the Solution. The doctor said, quote, policymakers in the media are doing no favors either to the public or the transgendered by treating their confusion as a right in need of defending rather than as a mental disorder that deserves understanding, treatment, and prevention, unquote. He said this confusion qualifies as, quote, a mental disorder in 2 ways. The first is that the idea of sex misalignment is simply mistaken. It does not correspond with physical reality. The second is that it can lead to grim psychological outcomes. The transgendered suffer a disorder of assumption, like those in other disorders familiar to psychiatrists, he says. McHugh says the transgendered suffer a disordered assumption that the individual differs from what seems given in nature, namely maleness and femaleness. This, the doctor says, is similar to those assumptions associated with anorexia and bulimia nervosa, where people believe they're dangerously overweight. While transgendered people hold these quote-unquote beliefs about gender in their minds because of feelings often related to psychosocial conflicts or problems that they believe will be resolved by changing genders. In their minds, the doctor says this cannot be challenged. This is why states are passing laws barring psychiatrists, even with parental permission, from striving to restore a natural gender feelings to a transgendered minor. McHugh also says, so at Johns Hopkins, we stopped doing sex assignment surgery. My friends, go on my Facebook page, read this article. It's vital. We'll be back.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
The associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter Lafayette, Vermont. No one anywhere is more noble, righteous, selfless, or courageous than our United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families foot the bill for our freedom every day. Send a military care package today to let them know that they are in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts. This message is from the associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they care.
If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival.
And welcome back, Howard Riell, Real Truth Thursday, the end of the week. I want to squeeze in as much information as I can. Author, art professor, feminist, cultural commentator Camille Paglia was recently interviewed about transgender mania. Suffice it to say, she's not a fan. Here's the interview. It starts with the interviewer and then it goes to Paglia. Hang on one second. Here we go. Well, that's very sweet, my friends. I'm going to interrupt Camille Paglia right here. I'll put this video on my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio. But just a moment ago, she said they're not doing these young people any favors by enabling them to get sex reassignment surgery. In fact, that's an understatement. They are enabling these young people and older people to ruin their own lives when what they should be doing is getting psychological counseling. That's where compassion is. We'll be back with more Real Truth.
Now this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, 19 through 21. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver is not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo's. Vincent, the uniform people freely. Firefighter, PhD, we thank them for doing a great job keeping our area to live, shop, and raise a family. We realize that the job is dangerous and sometimes thanks. This message from Citizens Uniform People Free. Call 352-2233. They're on the air because they care. The Firehouse of America. Citizens, the Uniform People in Greeley.
My friends, I don't know her name. I only know her tag. Her tag on YouTube is Blonde in the Belly of the Beast, and she's weighing in on all things having to do with major media in this country. I listened to it before. It's important. Here we go.
1% of their revenue.
You know what, my friends? That's an excellent idea. It's an excellent idea. I'm indebted to the blonde in the belly of the beast. Nothing stopping you from calling CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, CBS, ABC, MOUSC. You can call them. They'll take your call, and you can tell them, I'm a regular viewer, and I'm stopping being a regular viewer. I'm giving up because you guys simply lie, and I won't be lied to anymore. Tell them that. Now, are they going to go out of business the very next day after your phone call? No. But they monitor such things. And if enough people call, it gets discussed in a boardroom somewhere. And once momentum grows, changes can be made. It's important to reach out not only to politicians, which I tell you to do all the time, reach out to the media. Call your local television stations, your local radio stations like KHNC, 1360 AM The Lion. Tell us what you think. If you want to, this is a call-in show. You're free to call in anytime you want, or you can call the station and leave a message for me, and I'll read it on the air. But get in contact with the CNNs of the world and tell them you are fake news. And I'm going to tell everybody I know you're fake news, and I'm not going to watch you anymore. In fact, if you contact your local newspaper and write a letter to the editor to that effect, well, it depends on how honest the newspaper is, but they may well print it, and word will begin to spread. You can go on Facebook or any other social media outlet and say and do the same thing. If you go to images, you'll find a lot of images for CNN fake news. Post them. Circulate them. Get the idea out there. All right, let's move on. Item. A leading American philosopher has thrown his support behind President Donald Trump's decision to reinstate the ban on transgender individuals in the military, arguing that such a decision clearly serves the best interest of the U.S. military. Dr. Ryan T. Anderson, author of the forthcoming book, When Harry Became Sally, Responding to the Transgender Moment, has noted that people who identify as transgender, quote, suffer a host of mental health and social problems, including anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, at higher rates than the general population. Biology isn't bigotry, Ryan states, and we need a sober and honest assessment of the human costs of getting human nature wrong, unquote. The U.S. military is extremely strict in its requirements for the physical and mental health of enlisting soldiers and disqualifies individuals for a host of reasons, including ulcers, chronic conjunctivitis, genital herpes, heart arrhythmia, anosmia, Tourette's dyslexia, anorexia, agoraphobia, hypochondria, self-mutilation, and suicidal behavior. Regarding that final point, Anderson points out, quote, 41% of people who identify as transgender will attempt suicide at some point in their lives, compared to 4.6% of the general population. And people who have had transition surgery are 19 times more likely than average to die by suicide. The abnormally high suicide risk of transgender individuals alone would seem to advise against having them serve in the military. The most helpful therapies for gender dysphoria, that's feeling like a person of the opposite sex, Anderson states, quote, focus not on achieving the impossible, changing bodies to conform to thoughts and feelings, but on helping people accept and even embrace the truth about their bodies and reality. Since the mission of the armed forces is winning wars and protecting the nation, he adds, quote, any personnel policy must prioritize military readiness and mission-critical purposes first, unquote. What merits serious questioning, Anderson suggests, is not why President Trump has reinstated the tried-and-true policy of keeping people suffering from gender dysphoria out of the military, which reflects common sense, but rather President Obama's politically driven attempt to change it. There were well-justified concerns that, quote, Obama was using the military to advance the latest social justice culture warrior agenda items. He states, quote, seeking to mainstream transgender identities and promote controversial therapies for gender dysphoria. Obama's policy change, the doctor says, quote, ignored the reality that placing individuals who might be at increased risk for suicide or other psychological injury in the most stressful situation imaginable, the battlefield, is reckless. Along with these underlying reasons why Trump's decision was the right one, Anderson also lists 5 further practical considerations that would advise against admitting those who identify as transgender into the military. First, the privacy of service members must not be infringed, which is impossible when persons are treated as members of the opposite sex. Second, all service members remain combat ready at all times, which would rule out the regular hormone treatments and follow-up visits required after sex reassignment surgery. Third, all service members must be held to the same physical fitness standards, and these standards must not be based on the reality of biological sex. They must be based on the reality of biological sex, not the subjective gender identity. Fourth, scarce taxpayer monies should not be spent on costly and controversial sex reassignment therapies. And fifth, the medical judgment, conscience rights, and religious liberty of military doctors, chaplains, commanding officers, and fellow service members must be respected. Despite the evident logic of these arguments from people with common sense, numerous celebrities have become completely hysterical over Trump's decision, which should make the nation grateful. That hysteria is another condition that disqualifies a potential candidate from enlisting in the U.S. military. Unquote. My friends, the evidence is undeniable. The facts are undeniable, which explains why liberals ignore them, because they're facts, and liberals don't think in terms of facts. Liberals think in terms of feelings. That's why liberals are so damn dangerous. Item from Reuters, Dateline Jerusalem. Thousands of Muslim worshippers rushed to pray at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque in chaotic scenes on Thursday after Israel, backed down in the face of 10 days of often violent unrest and removed security measures it had installed at the sacred site. At least 37 Palestinians were injured as Israeli security forces used sound bombs to control crowds of worshippers surging forth once the last gate Muslims were allowed to use to enter Al-Aqsa was opened after a standoff of several hours. Stop. Let's go back to the end of the previous paragraph. Security recently, Israel backed down in the face of 10 days of often violent unrest and removed security measures it had installed at the sacred site. Unquote. My friends, this is yet another in a very long list, an absurdly long list of cowardly actions by the Israeli government. Can you imagine being a nuclear power, having the best army in the Middle East, facing off against punks throwing rocks, and backing away, giving in, buckling under? It's absolutely disgraceful. Rather than giving in to the demands of the Palestinians, the Israeli government should be crushing the Palestinians and shipping whoever's left out of the country. That's how you have security. And by the way, that doesn't only apply to Israel. Europe is being eaten alive by its Muslims. America will soon begin to experience the same scale of being eaten alive by our Muslims. So what do? Put up metal detectors and cameras? Or do we get rid of the problem to begin with? Tough decisions are called for, my friends. Got to be brave. We'll take a break and we'll be back.
Supply Incorporated in Fort Collins reminds listeners, every day our troops demonstrate their dedication to our nation. Now is the time for us to return the favor. Hire our returning veterans as well as those who have served in the past. After investing their lives in our nation, they deserve our investment in them. This message is from RNR Supply Incorporated in Fort Collins, and they're on the air, reminding all of us that our freedom has never been free.
And of his fullness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 16.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution.
Elizabeth Locker Plan and Elizabeth reminds our listeners that the drug problem is well documented. We know our kids will be approached at early age. We want to applaud the youngsters in our community who have had the strength to say no to drugs. They provide examples to their peers and families to be the best they can be. That's from Elizabeth Locker Plant, located at 366 Grant Street in Elizabeth, serving our area since 1943 and specializing in naturalized aged beef and pork and complete custom processing. Call 303-688-2240. That's 303-688-2240. If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival.
The associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter in Lafayette, Vermont. No one anywhere is more noble, righteous, selfless, or courageous than our United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families foot the bill for our freedom every day. Send a military care package today to let them know that they are in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts. This message is from the associate at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they care.
My friends, welcome back to Real Truth. I am Howard Riell. You know, there's something vaguely entertaining about knuckleheads. And if you're looking for knuckleheads, you have to go no further than our government. Here's Tucker Carlson from last night talking to Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, Democrat naturally, about transgenders in the military. Listen carefully to what Maloney says, because he's going to lie and avoid direct answers, just like a typical politician, especially liberal politicians. Here we go. Tucker Carlson from Fox News last night. Nancy Pelosi. What a horror show she is. Of course, that's an absolutely brutally stupid thing to say, but came from a Democrat. What do you expect? Yeah, that was a transgender person speaking. I don't want to hear them talking about blowing Holes anywhere. Excuse me, schmuck. Allowing transgender people into the military is only about a year old. Were you out in the streets before that period, before the last year, screaming it was outrageous and obscene? You weren't, right? That is the new mantra from the left, my friends. It makes our country less safe. You're going to have to explain to me why that's true, because it's not true. Right off the bat, Tucker points out that this Democrat congressman is a liar. At the very least, he's trying to mislead you. He says, here's a transgender soldier who did great things, but he wasn't a transgender soldier when he did them. Depend on the truth from a Democrat. Yeah, by all means, we should continue the policies of Barack Obama, who's universally acknowledged as the worst president in our lifetimes. My friends, that's what liberals do. This is a perfect illustration. Here's a congressman. You expect he'd have at least half a brain, right? Tucker Carlson wants to look at the issues involved in this question. And the congressman's response is basically, well, you must be a bigot. That's the end of the road for intellectualism on the left. When you make a case that they can't match, you're a bigot. You're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're an Islamophobe. You're a misogynist. Hey, they'll start calling you names. Wait until they start slashing your tires or beating you up at a rally, an otherwise peaceful rally. This is what the Democrats do. They can't think their way through arguments, and so they insult. Tucker Carlson gets pissed here, and I don't blame him. Excuse me. He has said serving honorably a few times. What is honorable about being in the Army and having mutilated your own body? What's honorable about dressing yourself and accessorizing yourself like a woman when you otherwise look like a... What's honorable here? That they're incredibly confused, that they've got a form of mental illness? That's honorable in the military? I don't think so. That they want to stick the federal government with the cost of their surgery? Is that honorable? Did he say men? You're not allowed to say men anymore. Congressman, I'm surprised at you. You can't call people men because then you're objectifying them. Now, you mean a transgender man who became a woman. What? All right. It's a woman who used to be a transition from man to... He's a... What? Oh, you know what? Forget it. I can't... You need a scorecard to keep up with what's happening in this country. Item from Reuters, California. Deputy Attorney General has been charged with possessing child pornography at his San Diego County home. All right, we'll leave it there. My friends, if you can do anything to help California secede from America, please do it. We'll be back.
Your local DuPont Pioneer team doesn't take with you from the word go lightly, especially when it comes to forages. Just ask your fellow producers, folks like Amos Smith.
We have an awesome support team from Pioneer. I think that they're probably one of the reasons why we are successful.
And Bruce Cullum.
They'll come out just anytime you want to call them and help us. You don't get that from all your other seed dealers. But these guys are here all season long.
As well as Ken Phelps.
Just know that, the research that Pioneer's done, it really, it shows, and that the cows really do well with it, so we continue to use it.
Or Billy Rucker.
All in all, seem like Pioneer is always in the top. I bleed green, and I bleed Pioneer.
Want a team that's with you from the word go? That's DuPont Pioneer. Ask them about leveraging the Silent Zone resource to produce the highest quality forages for your operation. Pioneer, with you from the word go.
He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 10 through 13. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. This is the America News Network.
My friends, welcome back to Real Truth. Few things in life are more likely to give you a headache than listening to a Democrat congressman from New York. And I apologize for putting you through it. Rush Limbaugh talking about Donald Trump's apparent disrespect of Jeff Sessions. He calls it a diversion. Let's listen to why he thinks that. My friends, Rush has it right. Rush has it right. I'll post this on my Facebook page too. We're almost out of time. Item from Breitbart. A woman in Sweden claims she was denied service at a local Somalian-owned shop because she was not wearing an Islamic headscarf, and remarked that she felt like she was back in her home country of Iran. The woman, a well-known Swedish female rights activist named Sohila Forst, said she was out shopping for dresses and was shown some by the female retail clerk shortly after a man, for whom Forst deduced to be the owner of the shop, spoke with the clerk in Somalian, and they refused to sell her the dress. We'll be back.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver. It's not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo. Elizabeth Locker Plan, and Elizabeth reminds our listeners that the drug problem is well documented. We know our kids will be approached at early age. We want to applaud the youngsters in our community who have had the strength to say no to drugs. They provide examples to their peers and families that they can be. That's from Elizabeth Locker Plant, located at 366 Grand Street in Elizabeth, serving our area since 1943 and specializing in naturalized aged beef and pork and complete custom processing. Call 303-688-2240. That's 303-688-2240.
Item from the Activist Post. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper has signed a bill into law exempting the sale and purchase of gold and silver from state sales taxes. The new law will remove an important roadblock in the way of their everyday use as money, taking the first step toward breaking the Federal Reserve's monopoly. Unquote. My friends, if you haven't been listening to the show for very long, I have weighed in continually invade against the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is an octopus designed to smother the American people. It was formed back in 1913 with the express purpose of maintaining the integrity of the value of the dollar. Since that time, the dollar has lost 97% of its value. The Federal Reserve is shady at best, dangerous, and an enemy of the American people at worst. And if North Carolina has taken the step to empower the use of gold and silver, that is a very good thing. Keep on top of the story. Item from InfoWars. If the individual mandate were to be repealed and Americans were no longer required to purchase the Obamacare mandated levels of health insurance coverage, the Congressional Budget Office believes 15 million Americans would no longer purchase such coverage. Some, including Jonathan Gruber, believe the CBO is overestimating the impact of repealing the mandate. Gruber was one of the architects of the health care law. Politically, the impact of these projections is significant since the individual mandate has long been the most unpopular part of Obamacare. Recent polling shows 2/3 of Americans would like to see it repealed. For many, the idea of the government forcing anybody to buy anything is in conflict with America's commitment to individual freedom. Unquote. My friends, it is in conflict with American freedom, but it's exactly in keeping with the left, with liberal values where the government's in charge and you are at best unimportant. Do what the government tells you because the government always knows best. That's the left. And if you vote for that, you deserve to be treated like a sheep. Item from the Economic Labs blog. We're living in the greatest debt bubble in the history of the world. In 1980, total government and personal debt in the United States was just over the $3 trillion mark, but today it has surpassed $41 trillion. That means it has increased by almost 14 times since Ronald Reagan was first elected president. I'm searching for words to describe how completely and utterly insane this is, but I'm coming up empty. We are slowly but surely committing national suicide, and yet most Americans don't even understand what's happening. According to 720 Global, total government debt plus total personal debt in the United States was just over $3 trillion in 1980. That broke down to $38,552 per household, and that figure represented 79% of median household income at the time. Today, total government debt plus total personal debt in the U.S. has blown past $41 trillion. When you break it down, it comes to $329,961.34 per household, and that figure represents 584% of median household income. Unquote. 8 years of a liberal president doubled our national debt. People spending recklessly have added immeasurably to our debt. My friends, what's good for us is good for our federal government and vice versa. Lean spending, cut spending, rational spending. That's the key to fiscal sobriety. I'll be back on Monday. My friends, it's been a pleasure this week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay angry. Hasta luego.